Welcome back to the Compound Podcast. This is episode 181 of the Compound Podcast, presented by Parsley Rum, the best rum for every time of year. But what a time of year it is! I'm going back to Chicago in a week or so, and I was looking at the weather. It's gonna be like 40, and it's gonna hurt my soul.
It's 75 today.
Yeah, it's nice and warm there, huh?
Mm-hmm. But it's supposed to be like 40 and below the next your wedding. I think it's going to be like 30s.
Oof. I am
sorry to tell you.
Yep. I was prepared for that mentally, but not physically.
It's indoors.
What I will do is I'll have a little bit of Parsley right before, warm myself up.
Oh yeah.
As someone who took wedding photos outside in December in Chicago in 30-degree weather, just make sure you're working quickly in those photos, because we were having a bad time when I took those photos. Respectfully, my friend Mike.
That is, yeah. I'm not looking forward to that part of it, but I'm looking forward to the wedding. Go to Benny's, go to the local liquor store, get some Parsley, warm yourselves up as it's going to get cold. So I put out a tweet a couple days ago, and I said we're going to record the pod on Tuesday. What should we talk about? We got a lot of responses. And I'm not going to take any credit for sifting through them. It was Tom. Tom was looking. Tom was searching. He grabbed a couple. And so Tom's going to read off some topics for us. We're going to go through them. We're going to see where we land.
I mean, we should probably start with the most current baseball news, which was the Abreu suspension, stemming from that Game 5 incident in the ALCS. This was from Rich Beisterfield. Hopefully I'm saying that right. What's their take on the Abreu suspension being upheld but won't be served until 2024?
Well, first of all, how awesome is it for baseball that we had one Game 7 and now two Game 7s?
Oh, incredible. That's what the world needs.
Everybody was like, these playoffs stink. They stink. Well, we have two Game 7s before the World Series, so it's pretty freaking great. Also, ridiculous from the Astros Ranger series that nobody wanted home.
That is crazy. And I was going to say, do you think Manfred's really wanted the Astros to win that one? Like Astros Phillies, I feel like would be your best ratings.
I don't know.
Not that Rangers don't get fans, but just like a rematch. I don't know. I feel like that would draw a lot.
I don't know. I'm going to go the opposite of you, and I'm going to say that people don't want to watch the same series over and over, because we've had that. Like we've had the Dodgers and the Astros. We've had a bunch of repeat series in the last 5 years, and I think that the fans want fresh blood.
I think it's almost a compliment to the Astros, but I've talked to a few just like normal baseball fans, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so excited that the Astros just aren't in it again this year," and it's like. It's a testament to them, they've been in everything for the last however many years. And then, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Dakota, we were talking about it with our group. Like, do you think that baseball wanted a rematch, or do you think baseball wanted like a different crowd? Again, I think if there are some good games, especially early, I think it'll attract the audience as it always does.
I don't think too many people are upset with the Astros being out. Let's put it that way. Outside of Astros fans, I don't think very many people root for the Astros.
I think that Major League Baseball is probably rooting for the Phillies, though.
Absolutely. I was going to ask that. I was like, I feel like they've become America's team. Like, I feel like everyone.
I mean, big names, big personalities, massive fan base.
And they're fun. They're fun. They play fun baseball. Yeah. Not that the Diamondbacks don't or the Rangers don't, but they just play fun baseball.
It would be unbelievable if the Diamondbacks come back and win this series after going down 2-0, getting, I don't want to say obliterated, but getting beat up those first two games and then having to go play 3 in Philly going back to Philly, right?
They won 2 out of 3 at home and then back to Philly. They won last night.
Okay. Yep. And then what a series.
What a series. I mean, there haven't been a ton of close games, right? There was just the one.
Yeah. They played the games 4 and 5 were pretty close.
They games. Walked off game 3.
Walked off game.
Oh, sorry, game 3. Yeah.
Game 3. They walked
Games
off
3
3.
and 4. I think. Yeah, games 3 and 4 were close.
Yeah.
Was it
They
the
came back in the 8th, didn't they? To
Alec
win?
Thomas hit the pinch hit homer, and
Yeah.
then Marte, who, again, we were talking about. The guy has 15 straight hits in his first 15 postseason games, something like that. The dude,
He's a freak.
I mean, he's doing it, bro. Like, again, we were looking at his stats. He is so severely underrated.
Yeah.
Totally. Yes, he is. But this started with the topic of the Abreu situation, and we really got sidetracked.
We got off the rails, but I'm going to put us back on the rails. Dakota, start us with the Abreu.
I mean, the discussion is, did he do it on purpose or not? Zack said it in our group text. What has he given up, Zack? You said 1 run since June? No runs? 1 run?
Yeah, well, I mean, what are we leaking group messages right now?
That's all I'm saying is you said,
Fuck.
what has he given up? 1 run since June?
Yes, July, or 2 runs since July now, or something like that.
You're telling me, and it was the first pitch of the inning, correct? Correct. You're telling me that guy doesn't know where the ball's going? I don't know. I've seen, like, I saw people saying, like, no way it was on purpose. Like, I think it was a 2-run game. Like, you can't put him on, blah, blah, blah. And I agree. Like, it's not smart to. But I also think that if anyone knows where the ball's going, it's Abreu. And after Adalis hit that homer, pimped it. Sick. I find it hard to believe it wasn't on purpose. And clearly so does the MLB.
It's such my gut reaction right away. I was pretty dialed in on that at bat after the homer, and I was like, wow, I'm curious if anything happens here. But again, I was like, oh, it's the playoffs. Like, who cares? Maybe they'll get him next year if they get him.
It was an extreme pimp job too. We should clarify.
Yeah,
It's like
right. But
halfway down the line, still holding the bat, ball lands in the stands.
But I mean, I almost feel like the playoffs, everything is off limits. Like in 19, Bregman carried the bat to the first base coach. Like
so did Soto.
So Soto did it right back. But I think my gut reaction, like I said, like I was watching that at bat, and then for some reason it felt like the ball was in slow motion and tracking, and I was just like, oh my God, he's gonna fucking drill him. And he did, and like you could just tell. I mean, I think Garcia was kind of waiting, like, I mean, his reaction right away was to turn to Maldonado. And, just to hear, I think Verlander post game was like, listen, like that was probably his biggest home run of his career. Like, I don't have a problem with him pimping it. And we wouldn't add a guy on base in that situation. But then again, you see the other side where it's like, this guy has been the most dominant reliever in baseball, basically, for however many months. Like, but again, on the other side, he hit somebody last night too. He hit Garver last night. So it's like,
oh, way to cover your tracks.
That
Too
was
late.
Yeah,
The suspension's upheld.
It's just, I don't know. I truly don't know, but I'm glad MLB didn't say, or I don't know if it was the rule, but like that he's serving it next year just to take all of Game 7 in the future if he had to do it out of it.
I did like that.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I really don't know, because no one's gonna admit it anyway. Like post game, like, yeah, we fucking drilled them. Do you guys like that one? Like, just not how it works. So I mean, I don't know. It's such a slippery slope. I don't know
whether it was on purpose or not. Sorry, Ian. Just had to say this part. Whether it was on purpose or not, I'll tell you what they did. They woke him up. They pissed him off.
bro.
He proceeded to go 4 for 5 with 2 homers and 5 ribbies in Game 7. He said, "You want to hit me? I'll hit you." Like, you woke him up.
So to clarify, Dakota thinks it was on purpose. Zack said
I do.
3 sides of the situation and thinks maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
Zack said yes, no, back to yes, and then back to no, and then he said,
quite literally, if I was in the middle of a tug of war, I'd be right in the middle.
I don't think you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself to be able to put that guy on and win a 2-run game and not worry about it. I think no chance it was on purpose. I think his miss is an arm side leaky heater, and like Garver in the rib cage yesterday was gross. Oh my God, that had hurt so bad.
Dude, McCormick got hit 104 in the leg, and still, 99 or whatever to the ribs. That's 5 miles an hour worse. I think I would rather take it in the leg. Like,
I mean,
For sure.
that
A rib shot?
that rib
Oh.
cage ball looked really bad. But
Oh.
I don't think there's any way it was on purpose. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say no chance that was on purpose.
Are you devil's advocating that, or do you truly
No.
believe that?
I truly believe not on purpose, and I also don't think he should have got suspended for it. I think that's it was leaky. It's a baseball play. Like,
yeah,
But it wasn't-
right.
But it
There's-
wasn't really leaky. Wasn't he set up outside and he missed far inside?
that would be like
far, but I'm saying far. How many times do
I mean,
you
dude,
see big league relievers miss that much? Fastball away to
yeah, you hit Zack.
almost
You hit
behind
Zack 2 times.
Yeah, that's
What
true.
happens?
two seam in and then a backed up slider. That's reasonable.
Don't
You're
let it
saying-
happen again.
You're saying that
It won't.
you're saying that you've never tried to
Loser.
let a 2-seam eat, and that's where your miss is.
I've never tried to throw a two seam glove side though, personally. But I'm saying, okay, I see what you're saying. I just think it's pretty coincidental. It happened to be a Dallas. It happened to be the first pitch of the inning.
And
I
there
don't know.
was the one thing I would say, just in favor of it being intentional, is there was a lot of smoke during the regular season between these two teams. There's a history between these two teams. There's a history between Adolis and the Astros. So there is some smoke there. It's not just as this is an isolated incident that does play. into it.
Abreu this year in 72 innings hit 3 people.
That's exactly. You're helping me.
I'd also like to say, whether it was intentional or not intentional, once Major League Baseball decides that he should be suspended, how is he not suspended for that series?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's like, if you're suspended and you did it in the playoffs, you should have to serve that suspension in the playoffs. If you do, you're telling me if somebody just spears, if I'm playing and I go and spear the pitcher, like he throws one a little bit inside and I just go put my helmet through his chest, like they're gonna be like, oh man, you know what? That's 5 games next year. Don't worry about it. You can play tomorrow. It's like, what? Like, if you get suspended during the playoffs, you should serve it during the playoffs. You should hurt your team. If you do something to get suspended, it should impact your team for the playoffs.
Was that in game 6 or game 5 you hit him?
6.
Okay. Well, because he did appeal.
No.
And I know, like, in
5.
the regular.
No, 5. I'm sorry.
You said that with so much conviction. It was game
Well,
5.
and that's
Well,
what, in
because
the
they said, like, oh, how is game 7 going to be affected?
And I know that in the regular season, if you appeal, you can still play through it while the appeal goes on, right? Right, Ian?
Correct.
And that's why I didn't know. I was like, okay, like he'll be good for games. Like, I'm guessing it's the same. Like, you have to wait for the appeal to go through. Like, you
There's
don't just
nothing
sit
else
out a
going
game.
on, so push that appeal to the top.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I think it's intentional. Do I think it was smart if it was intentional? No. Like, I think it was very stupid if he did it on purpose. I just think looking at, like Zach said, 72 innings, 3 hit by pitch, it's hard for me to believe it wasn't with everything else that was going into it.
All right, Tom, next.
But I could very well be wrong, obviously, and we'll never know, unfortunately.
You guys want to make predictions for tonight's game? We're recording before tonight's game 7. You guys want to make predictions?
Phillies 20-0.
I mean, I'm sticking with my Phillies Rangers World Series. Phillies win. I still think Philly's going to pull this out.
Who is it? The Fott versus Ranger?
Yeah.
Oh, real quick about the Phillies. Taijuan Walker's on the postseason roster, correct?
I don't know why he hasn't
He's
thrown.
thrown in 0 games.
I don't understand it, dude.
Lorenzen just threw for the first time yesterday, or the last game. First time.
And they started that, and nothing against that Santana guy that started game 4, I believe. But like, you're telling me you'd rather have a rookie than Taijuan Walker in game 4? What?
Didn't
That
make a lot
blew
of
my
sense. to me.
mind. I was like, what are we doing?
Unless they wanted the lefty, but that lineup's not like super lefty heavy. I don't really know kind of where that came from or why he hasn't pitched. But
He's probably sitting in the dugout like, what did I do? Rob, help me out. I'm pretty good.
the pitcher who's starting tonight for the D-backs, Fott.
I heard the announcer say it one time.
Me
It was
too.
Fott.
I was like, oh, Fott. Fott, you're right. He threw game
3,
4.
4.
Game 4
I don't know,
for
but
them?
he was nasty.
3 or 4. One of those first 2 home games in Arizona.
He was nasty. He was.
I think he has. I saw a tweet. He has 10.2 scoreless inning streak going right now.
I mean, he's got a 2 in the playoffs.
Game-
Like he's been really good for them.
Game
So like
Game 3,
that's
5 2/3, 2 hits, 9 Ks.
yeah. I mean, he comes out and throws 5 innings for them. Like their bullpen's disgusting. I'm sure they'll have a really quick trigger on him, and they're trying to get 3 or 4 innings out of him, not 5 or 6. But like,
Dude,
Rangers been gross too, though.
Rangers
Ranger has
disgusting.
been-
Rangers nasty, and he was
Bro.
nasty last postseason. He's nasty this postseason. He's got like a 0.8. Like, I don't know how it's gonna go, but those guys have both been dealing. I still strongly believe in Philly.
You know what's crazy about the Phillies? They don't really have a closer. Like they've had Strom close a game. I think Kimbrel closed one. Like they throw Alvarado's their best reliever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not even close. No offense
They
to
have,
other guys, but not even close.
Alvarado and
But
Soto.
Alvarado throws in anywhere from the 5th inning to the 9th inning. Like they might tonight go Suarez to like one other guy and then be like, hey, Alvarado, can you give us 3?
They've done that before though. They've
he'll
talked
do it.
about it. They've talked about it like they're on the same page, and he's like, bro, use me whenever you have to use me.
Which I have heard someone said it this season for us. Like they thought of you wish obviously 2020, you can tell when the biggest moment of the game is, but like, wouldn't you think that like in the 6th inning, bases loaded, nobody out, or like base loaded, 1 out, like why bring your closer in the 9th when that could be the biggest moment of the game, and you might not even use your closer because you're already down by 4.
You know who's started that was Tito, bringing in Andrew Miller in whatever years that was, like bringing him in the 5th inning, and guys are like, "What the fuck's going on?" And he would be like, "Bro, we could lose the game right here.
Yeah,
like, why would I not bring in my best guy versus your best guys?" And that was like this year. We kind of had. I mean, obviously a little bit different in the regular season, but we kind of had a closer by committee, with Lang and Foley, and Foles sometimes would throw the 9th. Like if this, like the situation aligned, like if they had their 1, 2, 3 and they were righties, like Lang would throw, if there was different matchups, and Lang would throw the 8th sometimes, Lang would throw the 9th, but Lang, obviously got a majority of the 9th, and we would ask, be like, hey, why are you switching it up? And he would give you an answer like, hey, like I want Lang going 1, 2, 3 if there's some lefties in there because he's better off of better against them than Foles is.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in our division a lot. The Pirates would do it with Bednar, where if we had like 2, 3, 4 coming up, like Bednar would throw the 8th, and it was like your best dudes are up to the plate, like then Bednar's going to throw the 8th, and or early on, not later in Hader's career, but early on with Council, like Hader you would get Hader in the 8th if that was like those were the dudes coming up. Like Hader's going to get him out, and there was a lot of that. But let's move on. We got a list of topics. Okay, we're getting off the rails. Back on the rails, Tom.
That's not that's following along the conversation. But yes, I think we all want. Let's say we all want the Phillies to win.
I didn't get to make a pick, but I'll say it's hard to pick against the Phillies. I want to pick the D-backs. We got a lot of D-back fans in the office, but can't pick against the Phillies. I don't feel. Zach,
I'm picking the Diamondbacks.
All right,
3 against 1.
Lavello, how do you say his last name? Lavello.
Torey Lavello, yeah.
Torey Lavello. He's got a little bit of like a mean streak to him. Not like a mean streak, but like his comments he makes, I kind of love it. Like when they went up to Philly for Game 6, he goes, I mean, we're not going there for vacation. We plan to go there and win. He's like, we're not going to go up there and let him slap us around.
He's firing the boys up.
I kind of love it.
This actually does not. I have one more question before we get to the listener questions. Kimbrel had obviously a tough time in Chase Field. He's got a career 5.94 ERA in Chase Field in 17 appearances. That's his highest ERA in any place he's pitched more than 10 times in his entire career.
That's why we pay you the big bucks, Tom, is for stats like that. Nice.
I was curious. Do you think that's real? Like, do you think he knew when he went out there? He's like, I always hate pitching in this place. As a pitcher, Dakota, do you think that's real? And B, do you guys have a place where you're like, fuck, I just always hate playing in this place?
I'll tell you this. This is me personally. I 100% agree. And it could just be in your head. And it makes no sense because like you'll face that same team at home and you'll throw fine. But for me in AAA, we'd go to Memphis, Tennessee. I had to have an ERA of 600 there. It had to be infinite. I never had a clean inning in Memphis ever, but we'd face them at home and I'd like throw good. It was crazy. I don't know what it was. The mound was fine. Like, it was a fine mound. Everything was fine. Like, it wasn't a tiny park. It was like not huge, but it was a like normal sized park. I'd go there and get shelled every single time.
I
So
think
yes, I agree with it.
yeah, I think everybody has at least one or two parks on their list that when they go there, it's just like, for some reason, I can't shake this place. It's got my number.
They get me here. These guys get me here. I literally would say it to I said it to RV 2 years ago when I was hurt and I was coming back. Their trip before I came back was Memphis. And I told them, I go, I'm very happy to miss that. I was like, I want nothing to do with throwing there because I'll start the year with 10 runs.
There's definitely a sense of like comfort too. If you see the ball well, or if you throw well, like you're getting the box, you're already up 1-0 in your own head. Like, oh, I love seeing the ball here, even if you're just tricking yourself. But like, you get in the box and it's like, all right, I'm going to see the ball perfectly fine here because I'm comfortable. I've had success here before. And like I said, you're going into that at bat up 1-0 already.
And it's not like, I will say, like Memphis, I sucked at, but it's not like I'd go out onto the mound, warm up and be like, here we go. Like,
no,
I'm going to get
it would be
shelled.
like an after the fact type of thing.
Yeah. Like it clicks in your
Like,
head after you're like,
fuck,
this
man,
place,
I
man.
can't get a
This
hit here.
place.
Right. Yeah.
All right. This one comes from CSWC Andy. He said, off-season goals for each one of you guys. What are you looking to improve upon in off-season training plans? Anything new, starting earlier, things like that?
Zack, take us away.
Yeah, I'm starting a little bit earlier this year, especially hitting wise. And last year, I've thrown more frequently than I had in the past, and this year was the best my arm has felt. It's hard, living in the Northeast, and I think I'm going to change, like I said, hitting, but then I'm going to stick with the throwing a little bit more and more frequently, a few times more a week, starting a little bit earlier. And then the training, I'm going to just same goals, kind of bigger, faster, stronger, and really dive into the diet part of it as well.
You heard it. Zach's coming into camp at 250.
Yoked.
Hitting
Action
bombs.
figure.
Hitting bombs.
Dakota, do you want
to? Yeah, I'm probably done playing, so not much of a training program for me. Training my mind to be a good coach, hopefully. That's my goal, is to get into coaching. So just staying knowledgeable with the game pretty much. But really it's kind of nice. I'm very nervous. I'm going to get in bad shape fast because I hate working out. Absolutely hate it. Hated it even when I played. But I did it because I was like, this is my career. I should probably go work out. So, I could be seeing 3 bills here soon. Hopefully not, but I guess time will tell. I said it to my buddy when I said I was going to get into coaching. He goes, there's only one of 2 ways coaches' bodies go after playing. You either just get shredded or you balloon. So it's I don't think I'm going to just stay the same. We'll see which road.
I think it's so sick when you see like coaches in any sport working out, like before you even get there, they're soaked, or like the Jets head coach runs stadium stairs every Sunday before a game. And there's always video of him doing it. And it's like, you have to be so mentally strong to just be like, dude, I'm doing this for the sake of my body and not for like competition.
RV would be 2 workouts in by the time we'd get to the field in spring training at 7 a.m.
It is
2 workouts deep and it's 7 a.m.
The one advantage you have is you do have a great facility to work out. Like no matter where you coach, like weight rooms are pretty good now. So like you have a place to work out every day. And so will
I take advantage?
Yeah. The coaching schedule of like getting to the park at like noon or 1 o'clock to crush the weight room for an hour before you actually start your day.
I don't foresee, in my mind, just being honest, I don't foresee a world in which I hit a squat rack.
No.
Like I just don't see me hitting legs almost ever again. I don't know. Maybe I will, but it's unlikely.
My off-season stuff be pretty similar. I've always thought that if you find a routine or something that works for you to stay healthy through the year, you stick to it. And if there's stuff that subtle changes you want to make, that's one thing. But if you wholesale your body every year, you're looking for some injury disaster. And so just staying pretty consistent with my off-season routine and getting ready for spring. One thing I'll work on this year and want to work on more to maintain is speed and agility stuff. Trying to keep working on staying fast, moving, hip movement, some stuff in the outfield that I want to work on, like hip opening, looking at some cornerback football stuff to try to help with like route running and just getting your hips open and that type of thing. But for the most part, everything will be the same for me. I also
That's really interesting. It's really interesting you say that about watching corners, because I love watching tennis players when they're returning a serve. It's very similar to an infielder's movement, and that's kind of what I've done throughout my career, is just, again, staying on top of movements like that. It's so interesting how you would look to a cornerback.
Yeah, I think that's like the best for another sport where they're reacting. They don't have like playing the field in baseball is so reactionary, and there's not a lot of other sports like basketball. They're moving around in a play, or they're moving on the court. If you're a wide receiver, you have a route you're running. Like our routes in the outfield are completely reactionary. So it's more similar to how a cornerback would have to drop and open their hips and move around. And so kind of looking at that to see what I can pick up.
I feel like it's nice too when you have an established big league career now, like what you've done every offseason leading into it. So like now you just kind of go in to a new offseason with like, all right, I did this well. Like you said, you stayed healthy, so you don't want to stray too far from what you've done, but you find something little to be like, all right, I want to improve this part of my game. And you find ways to improve that part versus, overhauling your whole process.
It's so hard because you want to try new things and see if that helps. But then at the same time, you don't want to dive into something too far and then have it be an issue down the road.
Yeah.
Even
like
if it's not like a direct correlation, but like,
but then you look back and you're like, why'd I do this shit?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen countless guys get in the gym and do like, oh, well, I'm going to hit this like crazy med ball routine. Like I'm going to go nuts on rotational stuff. And then the guy gets a spring and 2 weeks in, he's got no oblique, or, I'm going to do this crazy sprint. I'm going to get ripped up. And then the guy loses a hamstring like 2 weeks into spring. And you're like, damn, dude, like that, all of that work you put in the off season and then you get hurt right away. And it's not always a perfect correlation, but it's something I felt pretty strongly about in my career. And the other thing, the throwing thing, I've like 2 years ago, like I added vision training. So like I'll do vision training. So like you just add little things as you go. Like the vision training thing has been big for me and something that I continue to do through the off season. And after I had elbow surgery and right before 22, so throwing throughout the off season, making sure that like I have to take some time to get everything back and calm down. And then like I've started my throwing program earlier the last couple of years than I used to previously, just to keep that in shape. Because I do think that like throughout the season, like I feel really good, but in past years I would get to camp and I'd be like, my arm feels horrible. And then it would take like 3 or 4 weeks for it to feel normal again. So just at least throwing a couple times a week just to keep that in shape is important for me.
What does vision training look like?
A bunch of different stuff, but there's like I'll juggle every day. So I could try to just juggle for a few minutes every day.
How many things can you juggle?
I don't stray very far from just a few hacky sacks. 3 hacky sacks is my normal juggling routine.
Not like 5 bowling pins or anything.
Yeah, no, we don't go there. And then there's like these cards that you kind of cross your eyes and follow around. There's a magnifying glass thing that helps your eye focus. So there's like 4 or 5 little things. And, during the season, I'm super diligent with like, I do them every day right before the game. In the off season, I'll kind of pick 1 or 2 things to do on a daily basis just to keep it in shape and try to work on that stuff. I think, as you get older, you're fighting father time on speed, on eyes, like all that stuff. So just keeping that in shape and not like waiting until it's too late, I think is pretty important.
You're getting old, man.
Fighting it.
It's time to talk about our friends at DraftKings. Baseball playoffs are underway, and things are heating up in the ballpark. With the DraftKings Sportsbook, you won't miss a minute of the baseball action. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. Plus, all customers can take a crack at the sweet payday with the DraftKings same-game parlays. String together multiple bets from a single game for your shot at a major payout. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code COMPOUND. New customers can score $200 instantly. It's bolded. That's how I know it's important. Instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. Only on the DraftKings Sportsbook with code COMPOUND. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort KS. Licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles, LA. 21 plus, ages vary by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/baseball for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. All right, let's get you right back into Compound.
Next question. Tom Kimmel asks, what would be very interested to hear a player's perspective on the hot stove season. I assume you guys have a level of access and information we will never have, but are you guys getting into it as we are, or are you just, I'll meet whoever's there in spring training?
I think the assumption from the outside that players are more aware than the general public is hilarious. Like, we have more knowledge of like why teams would do certain things, like,
or if it's like your friend, like, you know, if like Schwarber signed back with the Cubs, like, you'd know just because.
There's a handful of times that's happened to me in my career. Like when Arrieta was talking to the Cubs on coming back, like I knew that prior. Like I talked to Dansby last offseason when he was making decisions. So like I knew that the Cubs had interest and like we had conversations, but like it's pretty rare that you know what's going on before it's going on. Like Kyle Hendricks talking about extension, like had absolutely no clue. Like I can see a world where like, oh, well, you know, you see the news and you're like, yeah, it would make sense if, you know, if he's probably wants to stay, he's been here a long time. Like if he could guarantee himself a few more years, they bring his AAV down. Like you can kind of work through like, yeah, that might make sense. But like when that news hits, like I wasn't like on the phone, like, hey man, just so you know, we're going to talk to Kyle about an extension. Like, all right, awesome. Like you have no, as a player, you have no idea.
That's what I was going to say. As soon as Tom said that, I was like, I feel like people think, like, people will ask me, like, I have some buddies that are Cubs fans and they'll like ask me stuff. I'm like, Ian doesn't even know. I was like, and if he knew something like super inside, like, and even like when you said, when Arrieta said like he was talking to the Cubs, like that doesn't really mean anything. Like guys talk to teams, like established, like Dansby Swanson probably had 6 offers. Like, oh yeah, he's talking to the Cubs. It's like, okay, but you have no clue how much they're offering. Like, is he interested? Sure. But you know, like guys just don't really know that much. I feel like, unless, like I said, it's one of your friends that you're close with. Like if Rizzo, I think Rizzo's a free agent again, right? Or did he sign a 2-year?
No, he signed the 3-year deal, didn't he?
3-year? Okay. But that's what I mean. Like if Rizzo was a free agent, like I'm sure Ian would have an idea of where he was going before it became public. But other than that, like,
but even last year when he was going through, like he rejected the qualifying offer, like it's like, hey man, what are you gonna do? And it was like, I don't know. And you're like, all right,
yeah,
because you're gonna be like, tell me exactly what you're thinking.
And it's not like Rizzo's responding like, yeah, I'm looking for 3 for 50 from the Yankees, but they're not giving it to me.
Yeah,
like they're not giving you. Yeah.
But as far as like paying attention to it, like, yeah, I pay attention to it throughout the offseason. I think it's really interesting just where the market moves and kind of what players are trying to get and where, you know, where the market's going to move and how that affects the rest of the group. But like, I think that stuff's really interesting. So I pay attention to it. And like once in a while I'll have a little bit of inside scoop on what somebody's looking for, what they're trying to do, or what teams are interested. But like, that's not more scoop than Passan has.
And you're more like one of the bigger faces of the Cubs franchise. So like maybe if a guy they're trying to sign like has questions about the Cubs, like maybe they'd reach out to you. But other than that, like you don't know much other than what you see and hear on Twitter.
This one comes from the wonderfully named Frank Hot Dog 96. He asked, do you find yourself rooting for other teams or ex-teammates in the playoffs, or do you feel generally disinterested in baseball after the team's seasons officially end?
That's interesting because especially like if you have friends, like again, like I was pulling for the Cubs down the stretch. I was like, oh, obviously paying attention to what they were doing, what was going on. And you're kind of, rooting for them that way. But like, again, for an example, like this series, the D-backs and Phillies, like played with a few guys in the Phillies, and it's awesome, being in like just watching them, knowing how they are as a person. But then you're like, man, that would be really sick for the Diamondbacks. Like nobody in their mind had them here at this time. Bunch of guys who we've talked about who are really underrated, kind of just taking it to whoever they play. But then again, you look on the other side, like with the Phillies, it's like, man, like that team seems all like best friends, like it's cool to watch a team that close to do it. I think it's both. Like, again, I watch a little bit like Ian, you don't watch as religiously. Like, I think it's more of like rooting for like the storyline opposed to like teams, I guess you can say. And you kind of just feel yourself leaning one way or another. Like when the Twins were playing, like I knew you play them 12 or 13 times a year, what their moves are, who they have. So you kind of like, you'll watch that game a little bit closer, I think. But I don't think you really like sit there and root hard for somebody. You're not going to wear a Phillies jersey.
And Ian, I feel like I don't want to speak for you. For Ian, especially this year, like I'm guessing the first like wild card, maybe even a little bit of the division series, like you're probably pretty checked out of baseball. Like you just had a wild card race, obviously didn't make it. You're probably not too interested in seeing too much of what's going on. Now that time's passed, I'm sure you watched a little more of like the division series and the championship series. Would you agree? I guess I'm more asking you. That's just what I imagine.
Yeah, like I watched a little bit of the first wild card series. Wasn't like too invested in it, not watching every game. I think for me, the Phillies have the most guys that I've played with or spend time around. Schwarber's a guy that I'm super close to, so like obviously rooting for him. Play with Castellanos, play with Kimbrel, so that team is probably the team that I'm most invested in or care most about those dudes having success. But you just like to watch good baseball, and I think you like there's also stuff I think as a player you kind of see what the best teams are doing, and you're like, all right, what are the similarities for these groups, and then like how can the Cubs as a team implement some of that? It's like what stuff do we have to get better at? I think that's like
it's such a good point. When we played the Rangers at home, a few guys saw them out at a restaurant. It was like the whole team, like 30 guys were there. And I think somebody was talking to him like, man, like you guys got everybody here, huh? And they were like, yeah, it's like mandatory once a road trip, we have a team dinner. And it's like, oh, I mean, okay, I think there's a direct correlation. And that's kind of how we came up, Dakota, with the Cubs. Like they all said that everybody was really close. You had such a great locker room. And then you look at the Phillies, they seem like what you said, they seem like they're all, playing and dying for each other out there. It's not like, I'm sure they hang out off the field. I'm sure they talk a lot, and that's a really good point. Like you kind of pay attention to what teams are doing to see if you can implement something like that.
Yeah. That's kind of to me, the best part about watching the postseason.
Yeah. I one last thing. I was just going to say, echoing what you guys said, like you have guys that and you have relationship with. Like we knew Schwarber a little bit. Me and Zack did. Ian knew him better. Like you tend to root for those guys, which makes it easy to root for the Phillies. I'm a little different than Zack. Zack likes the storylines. Diamondbacks don't do it for me. Not very interested in it. Would rather see the Phillies win. That's my last point.
Yes.
Who submitted this next question?
I was going to ask you, there was about 50 people who asked about Schwarber. I thought we could just have a quick Kyle Schwarber, NLCS, having an unbelievable stretch. But if you want a specific person, I can find a different question.
Okay.
He's got it.
I'll talk about Kyle Schwarber real quick. But before I talk about him, I want to talk about ERC. RC. Omega Accounting Solutions is the official partner of the Chicago Cubs and presenting partner of the compound. That is a line that I haven't read very much. I just mixed that one in today. They have the Employee Retention Credit, ERC. It's a government tax incentive that helps small businesses get back up to $26,000 per employee for overpayment of payroll taxes during the pandemic. If you're a business owner and you had 5 to 500 W-2 employees who continue to pay taxes, if you are the business owner and you continue to pay taxes and employ staff during the pandemic, you could be eligible. There's still time to find out if you qualify and file your claim. Call 800-643-CUBS or visit smallbizcashback.com/Cubs for a free consultation. Schwarb's doing it. I think Schwarber is obviously a great player and has a most interesting regular season slash line and still hilariously productive.
It's a crazy slash.
Walks, homers, lots of walks, lots of homers. And that, I think what maybe the normal fan doesn't realize when they're like, oh, Schwarber, oh, how's he doing this? Oh, he doesn't get hits. That profile plays so well in the playoffs because he's going to get on base, and he's going to get on base for Trey Turner and Bryce Harper, and he's going to drive himself in. And when you're facing the caliber of pitching that you see in the playoffs, which is everybody's 1-2 and the back end of their bullpen, you need to hit homers. That's how you score. That's the recipe for scoring. You can't get 4 hits in a row off of Zack Gallen's and Merrill Kelly's and, the dudes that you face through the postseason. You don't string together 4 hits very often and hit 4 singles. You need some thump. And he has that. And so what he's been able to do driving himself in is what plays during the playoffs and is super exciting. And it's why he's been one of the best playoff hitters, actually one of the best playoff hitters ever.
I'm calling a second pitch home run tonight from him, not first pitch, because I think they know that he could swing first pitch. So you'll see an off speed, ball 1, and then second pitch, whack, 1-0 Phillies.
I think you get heater away, ball 1-0.
Slider.
Probably ball 2. And then 2-0. He's taking a hack. I'm not saying he's hitting a homer.
He ain't getting a heater 2-0. I think it's 2. There's just people that have the clutch gene. I feel like he just has that. He loves the big moments. You saw it with the Cubs in the World Series run too. He just lives for it. And he's so fun to watch. I don't know if it's just something about his body type or anything like that. You know what I mean? But he's just fun to watch play baseball. He just seems and we know him, so we're biased, but he just seems cool. If I was just watching him play and I didn't know him, I'd be like, man, this guy seems so much fun, and he probably drinks so many beers after the game.
I think that's why people love him so much, because he seems like one of us. He seems because he is. He's just a regular dude.
Yeah, he is.
And but he hits homers, and he is a great baseball player. But he really did
There's something very relatable about most people don't have the 5 tools, and he's not a 5-tool guy. He's got really 1-2 great tools, but those tools happen to be the world class, absolute best in the world at those tools. And I think people can relate to that more than the guys who have, or fast or all these different things. He's just a guy who goes out and takes walks and hits homers. That's it.
I'd like to guarantee that if they win the World Series, he comes on the pod before the end of the year. That's a guarantee. But if they don't, I can't guarantee it because we were scared to ask him last year. So we'll probably be scared again this year. So hopefully they win it all, and we'll have him back on, and we'll be able to say World Series champion Kyle Schwarber. Well, 3rd World Series? Second. Was he on the Nationals team that won it?
No.
Okay, second. Zach, anything you'd like to say about our friend? I still remember, real quick, sorry, brought you in and then just shut you right down. Sorry about that. I still remember walking into our first big league spring training, Zach, and my locker was directly across from him, and I was so scared. I was next to Willie, across from Schwarber, and I go, I'm gonna die over here.
Meeksy.
Meeksy.
No,
He calls me Meeksy. If he ever sees me, it's still Meeksy. Zach.
He was just so great to us, even in camp, and then wanting to play golf all the time. He would text us. Like he was just such a genuinely nice human being, and seeing that he's a great clubhouse presence everywhere he goes is just not surprising whatsoever.
He fits in so well with that team. Like that team just seems like so much fun.
They, I remember reading an article last year when they lost in the World Series. It was like him, the veterans, and a bunch of the younger guys sitting around his locker, and they were just sitting there in their chairs, drinking beers, just talking about what happened during the season. Like that's awesome. And I think he takes a lot of, again, I don't know, didn't play with him, but I feel like he would take a lot of pride in being that leader, being that type of clubhouse guy that guys can just completely lean on throughout the year.
He as a young player was so good at, soaking everything in. Like he spent time around John Lester and John Lackey, and like he wanted to be a part of it, and he wanted to be like those dudes, and like he learned from those guys. He was never, he was a 4th overall pick and like a really big deal, and came up and performed, hit a big playoff homer, was a hero in the World Series for them, and come back from the ACL. Like he could have very easily gone the other way and been a dude who's like, I'm the fucking best player here. Like you guys all fuck off. But he really wanted to be like one of the guys. He wanted to be a veteran big leaguer who people look up to and trust. And like that's why all of his teammates love him, because he cares so much about everybody else in the clubhouse doing their best, and like that really shows.
It's also just crazy, Zach, that he's, and Ian, but like he's our age.
Yeah, it's
gross. I just feel like he's like 35.
Yep.
But he's our age, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Shit.
Today is the 7-year anniversary of when it was announced that he was on the plane going to Cleveland and was going to DH in Game 1 of the World Series. And that's one of those memories. I'm not a Cubs fan, but I was at Illinois State at the time. I was in our radio station. I remember there was like a roar. It was one of those moments that like people were just losing their minds. They couldn't believe that he was going to do that. And then he went out and performed as he did in the World Series after everything he had been through, playing in what was he, like in instructional league games or whatever? He was
fall league.
He played. I was in the fall league and he came and played with us.
Incredible.
And our trainer, shout out to Matt Johnson, our trainer who went down with him to the rehab in Arizona, was so fucking scared every time he would come to the plate, because he would run, the bases, and he'd be like, oh, and he slid into second one time. He hit like a pull hook shot down the right field line, and he's chugging around and he slides into second. I just remember Johnson at the corner of the dugout, like, oh, he's okay. Because
he's probably like, I'm fucking fired. If he gets hurt, I'm fired.
Oh yeah, it was like immediate. Like if you go down with him and then he hurts himself again, it's like all your fault. But it was really cool, like experience for me. We had spent the offseason, or a month of the offseason together the year prior, after I got drafted, and then he gets hurt right away. And then for him to be down in spring, I lived with him for a month already. So for him to be down in Arizona during the fall league rehab, to watch him go out there and hit 400 balls off the machine to try to get ready. Like he hadn't played in 5 months, and then like did all that. It was nuts.
And it's well documented, but he had no business being back that quick. ACL, right?
Yeah.
That like no business playing in a professional sport 5 months outside of tearing your ACL. He could not run really. Like I remember he would get hits and it was like, oh boy, that doesn't look like it feels good. No. But he could still swing the bat. And that's all the Cubs needed.
And he swanged it.
And he could swing it.
Zach didn't like this one. We went through it.
I like this one.
In the pre-show meeting. But I still think it's good. This one comes from Gene Michael. It says, cutting down on one swing when situational hitting calls for it. You guys have talked a lot about how people, I think it's easy to choke up and, just hit the ball the other way. But Obviously, much harder, much easier to do that in my mind than it is for someone to go out and do that against 99-mile-an-hour sinkers. So, talking about your approach really with 2 strikes and how it might change now, especially.
We'll let the hitters take it.
Zach?
I mean, it's
Zach hates it.
no, I don't hate it. It's more of like we've talked about it before. Like, obviously, pitching has just absolutely taken off. And it's not an excuse or anything, but like,
Zach, does your approach change on 2 strikes when you're in a 2 strike count? Is your approach now different than it was in a
yes,
0?
yes. And honestly, like, I get in a little bit more trouble sometimes when I do that. Like, I'll widen out a little bit. I'll sometimes choke up, but like when I widen out, it's tough because I don't start nearly as early. I feel like I'm going to attack the ball opposed to being, staying back and kind of, reading the pitch. It's like you just feel like, I mean, 2 strikes is kind of, it's a daunting place enough where it's like, especially in a big situation, like, fuck, I kind of got to get this done. And then you widen out, you feel a little bit more tense, whether you mean to or not. And like me personally, I get in a little bit of trouble when I do that. And it's finding that line of like, all right, is this a time to do it? Do I even work on it enough to where I feel comfortable doing it in a big situation against a guy who's, throwing me every pitch going which way from a funky angle, like, or do I give myself the biggest chance to put the ball in play? And that's kind of having my normal attack mode swing. Like there's been plenty of times this year where I'd be like, oh fuck, like not oh fuck, but like, all right, let's widen out, let's choke up a little bit. And like, I'll take a slider down the way. And I feel like I am just going to get everything because your center of mass is just off. Like everything kind of just feels a little off. And you're digging yourself a deeper hole than even being in 2 strikes.
Are there times when, like, say, guy on second, nobody out, like you'll get to 2 strikes, so you're like, all right, slap it on the ground to the right side? Like, do you think that in your head? Like, do you try to do that or not really?
You don't try to like fish fillet it over there, but you're like, all right, let's try, let it travel a little bit deeper. I'm still looking to drive something up the middle. I'm not giving myself up, but
yeah.
The worst thing that can happen in this at bat is that guy goes to second base or to third base. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like you're trying to find any way you can.
Yeah.
Whether it's base hit, whatever.
Right.
And I think situational hitting is a very broad phrase, and there's different types of situational hitting. Like there's guy on third less than 2 outs, like that's real situational hitting, where like putting the ball in play is super valuable. When the infield's in, putting the ball in play in the air is super valuable. Like when the infield's back, being able to just put the ball in play at all is super valuable. So it's like situationally, what do you have to do? And like, when does it make sense? Like just putting the ball in play with 2 strikes and nobody on and 2 outs, like doesn't necessarily make that much sense. Because there is still, like, if I roll over at 64 miles an hour, like nothing's happening.
Right.
And if I take a hack and just miss something and pop up, or if I get my ticket punched, like on a good pitch, like that's not the end of the world. There's also like runner on first with 1 out, or runner on first with no outs. When you're hitting the middle of the order with runner on first and no outs, like a ground ball double play is death, because Cody Bellinger's coming up behind me with a 900 OPS, and he's got a chance to hit a double or a homer every at bat. So like, if I punch out in that situation, like it's a lot better than rolling over. So there's like, well, you struck out, or like you watch something on the corner. It's like, yeah, but Cody now has a chance to hit in this situation, like first and second, nobody outs. Like I'd rather get my ticket punched 10 out of 10 times than hit into a double play. So like situational hitting is a very broad definition. And I think there was a good example the other day in the Phillies game. The Diamondbacks were up and they were trying to add on a run. So dude leads off with a double, and then they bunt Carroll, and Ketel Marte is up with runner on third, 1 out against lefty.
Strom?
No.
Soto?
Yes. Might have been, I think it was Soto. But this dude, Ketel Marte, against lefties for his career, is a 305 hitter with an 874 OPS. He fucking rakes lefties. Has his entire career. This year, he hit 313 against lefties with a 382 on base and an 879 slug or 879 OPS. He rakes lefties. Guy punched his ticket. Like, what do you think he was trying? Like, he's not trying to get punch out. Like, this dude's given his best at bat and he rakes from outside of the plate. There's just times when pitchers are really good. Even when you're great, even when you're type of guy like him who hits 300 from that side of the plate, like, you're still out 70% of the time.
Yeah.
And like, it's really easy to point to situational hitting. It's like, oh, well, you got to, yeah, but you're going to get out 70% of the time anyway. And when you're facing those high leverage guys, it's probably more like 75, 80% of the time. So like, you can never tell what the guy's thinking, and the fans, and there's some guys I play golf with out here, and like, there's just some like, what was that guy thinking? It's like, these dudes are giving their best in any situation, and to think that you can tell, like, oh, he was swinging for the fences there, like, the fuck he was not.
That's
He was
what's
not-
the
he was
funniest.
not
That's the
doing that.
funniest shit.
Bro.
That's the funniest shit.
Listen, like, I know like a lot of announcers have played the game at a high level. Like Smoltz is great. Like, whenever there's been a lot of times this year where he's talked pitching, and it's happened like 100% of the time in an at bat. He's like, oh, well, he goes here, and then he's in a, trying to go back foot. And then what do you know? Next pitch is back foot. And then like, he was talking about Garcia the other night after he was struggling and then homers. And he was like, yeah, you see that? He really shortened up and did this and did that. And I'm like, dude, like, you don't know what he's thinking up there, dude. Like, you don't know. The guy, it was the game after the whole thing happened. He was probably absolutely amped up out of his mind, swinging at everything. Like, it doesn't mean that he was up there like, ooh, I'm trying to punch something in right field here. And then, look, I hit it off the train tracks. Like, it's just not how it works.
I think that
Sorry, go ahead.
the swings where you hit a bullet up the middle or where you hit a rocket, like, they always look clean. Like, they look flush, they look clean, like, they look under control. The ones where you swing and miss look out of control because
Right.
your body's trying to speed up to get to something, or you've recognized the pitch wrong, and then your body's trying to reorganize at 100 miles an hour in literally 0.2 of a second. Like, that's what's happening, and they always look like out of control, but it's the same swing that you would put on the ball middle. It just, when it lines up and works out, it looks really good. And like, shorten up, like, yeah, there's times when dudes choke up, there's times when dudes punch it the other way, but it's more about recognizing the pitch and doing that than it is like a premeditated plan.
Like, I bet you if you watched Altuve and you had no idea his numbers or what he does, and you were just a fan, you'd be like, oh my God, this guy swings out of his fucking shoes every time, but he'll hit a ball to the right field. And they're like, you see how he just let it come to him. And it's like, bro, the guy swings at literally everything in the rosin bag. Like,
Yeah,
he's just a really good hitter.
I watched it back yesterday where he swung at 3 balls in the other batter's box, but like, he
Bro.
hits 340.
Yeah, like, it's just, oh, God.
That is a really good point, because fans all the time, like you said, you swing and miss. It's like, oh, he needs to shorten up there. Like, he needs to stop trying to be a hero. It's like, dude, if he makes contact and it's a base hit to right, you say, what a job.
Bro.
But he swung and missed, and it's like, oh, he was trying to do too much.
It's crazy. It's the difference between like that much, probably.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I caught it that far out in front, or I caught it that far underneath. Like, but again, if he swung that much above the ball, you'd be like, oh, guy's just playing the game how it's supposed to be played.
And also, again, we say this a lot, hitting's pretty fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to hit. Like, you see, me and Zack, we were talking about Merrill Kelly the other day. His ball looked like he was moving 10 feet. It looked like it was behind a lefty and it was in on a righty.
Dakota, that when we said that, it was a punch out, I think, to Castellanos. 22 inches of horizontal.
That starts off the
It's
plate.
almost 2 feet.
Free.
It's almost 2 feet for all the math majors out there.
starts off the plate away, 2 seams back, 2 feet at 92, paint. And it's like, well, I'm going to go sit in the dugout now.
How the fuck did you take that? It was right down the middle.
I love when Zach gets fired up.
I'm gonna tell the kids about the Bruce Bolts. Bruce Bolt, batting glove that I use, family-owned business in Austin, Texas, actually started by a 16-year-old. Best gloves in the game. I have 2 colorways, a baby blue and a white and baby blue. They're pretty great. Go try them out. brucebolt.us. They also have shorts. They have performance shorts with super light 4-way stretch material, perfect for BP, working out, wearing them to school, or just hanging out. 5 inches that Dakota likes, or the 7 inches that I like, whatever you're feeling. brucebolt.us.
Great golf gloves too. If you're interested in golf gloves, great
Exactly
ones.
right.
I still use them.
Jack, how'd the Jets do?
They did great.
They won.
They
They won.
did win because the Bills
They're
and
on
the
bye.
Patriots both lost, or the Dolphins
They-
both
they had a
lost.
bye
They were
week.
on a bye week.
They had a bye
They
week.
had a bye week.
Bears won. Big deal. Big deal. Bears won. Dakota's really excited for hockey tonight. And
Are you not going to ask me about my weekend? Don't you want
So-
to drown in my sorrows with me?
tell me about it.
Started with me going to the Michigan State football game. The game was at 7:30 at night. We began tailgating at 11 a.m.
Ooh.
Had quite a few adult pops. Proceeded to lose the game 49-0. Left midway through the third quarter. It's quite embarrassing. Almost got into it with some Michigan fans.
Oh,
Not
God.
really, but
on,
like the
man.
guy sitting next to me was a Michigan fan. Somehow we're in the MSU family section and there's Michigan fans around us. I'm like, this shouldn't be allowed. And the guy's like saying, like, MSU had like a late hit out of bounds. I loved it. Sent a message. We're down 35-0. We don't give a shit. And the guy goes, way to keep it classy. I go, that's rich coming from you guys. Michigan, cheaters, as you guys have seen in the news, probably. Cheaters, shocker, scumbags, shocker,
Jesus.
cheating scumbags. Michigan is cheating scumbags. Statement.
I like
Post-it.
how Dakota was saying he wants an R-rated episode and then went on the most R-rated rant, I think, in the history of the show.
Michigan is scumbags. It's unbelievable. They're the Astros of college football. Are we serious? I'm not even going to get into it. So then that was tough. The game sucked. It was cold. Had a great day tailgating. Game sucked. Sunday, get excited Lions, big game against the Ravens. They proceed to lose 38-6. So it was fun. It was a really good weekend. It was a good time. Looking forward to this next one.
Wait, time out. What was the score total of your teams? 2
38
days.
plus 49 is 87-6. So
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
That is so
pretty
fucked.
good. Yeah, it wasn't the best. And we usually stay for like the whole game when we go to the MSU game, just, out of respect. My buddy, his wife is a trainer on the team, so we stay out of respect. But this one was so bad that we got midway through the 30. He goes, dude, let's go. I was like, okay, good.
Yeah, because
I'm ready to go home.
if she had a choice, she would leave too.
And it was like 10 o'clock at night because it was a night game. We had been drinking all day. I was like, dude, let's just get out of here. Like it's time to be done with this.
You're already hungover. It's all good.
I literally was hungover in the stadium.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm the most miserable I've ever been in my entire life. But yeah, that was my weekend.
That
so hopefully
sounds like a great weekend.
hope
Let's
everybody had better ones than me.
let's get to
Ian,
the screen time.
your weekend though.
I had a great weekend. I went to F1. Zack Brown at McLaren was awesome to set everything up and had a blast. Got to watch the sprint race on Saturday and then the full race on Sunday. Lando Norris, McLaren driver, had a P3 that was moved to a P2 after Lewis Hamilton was DQ'd.
No way. That's crazy.
And a really, really, really awesome event. It's fun to have that in Austin every year.
I know what those things mean. That's crazy.
There's some F1 fans that listen to the pod that'll love it. Let's
I
get
know.
to the Sloan
I had to
screen
give you
time.
shit.
Sloan is the world's leading manufacturer of commercial plumbing systems. The company is at the forefront of the green building movement and provides smart, sustainable, and hygienic restroom solutions by manufacturing water-efficient products, including flush meters, faucets, sink systems, soap dispensers, and fixtures for commercial, industrial, and institutional markets worldwide. To learn more, visit Sloan.com. Tom, you had a couple good screen times from the people this week. What were your two?
Well, so we just got a third one. We got a late submission 55 seconds ago. This person just tweeted this at us. It's not from this week, so you have to put an asterisk on it. But this is from August from JW Wemby, who tweeted, and I'll share the screenshot in our group chat. 20 hours, 55 minutes. I've never seen every hour the bar is just at the top. It's honestly one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
How is it
That's not this
physically
week,
possible?
Prison. I want him in prison.
That GIF that I tweeted, a GIF from our screen time from last week, that was the girl with her phone on her face. It didn't get that much love, but I thought it was hilarious.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, man.
But I'm gonna go give it a like right now. A pity one.
All right. So
what day are we doing, Ian? What day?
What's the other one? What's the other one?
So that one technically wasn't eligible. So our real winner, we had second place here. I thought this was going to be the winner from Brandon. He had 15 hours, 53 minutes last Tuesday. That still, though, is not our winner from, I believe this is this Sunday, from Nico Fan Club. They said, I need to go outside and or sleep more. And I would agree. 16 hours, 25 minutes. That is our winner for the high.
God.
That was the high.
That's definitely not a Nico Horner. That's definitely not a Nico Horner burner account either. There's no way Nico spends that much time on
He's not doing that screen time. Do you want to do Sunday or Monday?
No,
we're not doing Sunday.
That was fun.
When did we just start doing Sunday?
Okay. Monday or today?
Today.
Hey.
Okay.
Today's a
Let's
good
do
one.
today.
3
hours.
My Sunday was so much better than last Sunday. Sorry.
3 hours and 44 minutes for me today. 3:44.
Are you kidding? 3:44 over here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dakota?
Tom, what'd you get?
3 hours, 15 minutes.
Oh, Tom, you did so good. So good.
Come on.
Second place. 238, baby.
Wow.
Come on.
Wow.
Last to best. Come on, baby. Worst to first, just like that.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is.
I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. And I said, you know what? I'm going to turn over a new leaf.
That is the Sloan screen
Tom,
time.
I'm proud of you, though. Tom, I am proud of you for that. 315 is very good.
Thank you.
Sloan screen time. Tom still hasn't won. Not sure how. That's episode 181 of the Compound Podcast, presented by Parse Rum. Go to Benny's, go to your local liquor store, get some Parse. We'll see you next week.